Woo!
Hello, everybody. My name is John Armstrong, and I help the Ontario Kinesiology Association with their government and stakeholder relations, and we are here for another edition of Kinversations. We are joined today with one of our usual guests, Devon Blackburn, who is the president of the Ontario Kinesiology Association and a registered kinesiologist. And we are also joined today by Spencer Raposo, who is a genuine kinesiologist, promoter, and enthusiast, and has a podcast. And lots of ideas about what the future of the profession is. So we're keen to have that discussion here today with you, Spencer. Welcome.
Thank you.
So why don't we kick off with why are you such a kinesiologist, promoter, and enthusiast?
Well, looking back from when I first finished school and to where I got to now, a lot of it had to do with me learning a lot about the people in the profession and kind of seeing, okay, this is something that I can help build, grow. And me being a young kinesiologist coming into it, I was almost naive to not really know what's going on, to just try different things and talk to different people and build different things. And hopefully it would help kind of make a name for kin. And especially me being in school and learning a lot about all the awesome things, I wanted to share this knowledge with my parents, my family, and let people know oh, I can help you. And that kind of helped lead me into really wanting to promote kinesiology as a profession in Ontario. And I really saw that I was really underserved in that aspect. And I just decided to jump head first, start writing blog posts, start helping other kinesiology students, taking them on clinically, and then eventually kind of working on some of my other businesses, looking at more exam preparation, and then more recently the podcast. And everything's kind of just stepped together to that point.
How long have you been? When did you graduate? What was how long ago?
2016.
You beat me to that question.
What's that?
You beat me to that question. That's what I was wondering. Oh my God, he's got this long list of things. When did you graduate? How long have we been in?
I graduated in 2016 from Western for kin, and honestly, I was definitely one of those people, and I've said on a lot of other podcasts that during school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was kind of just going along the ride, enjoying it, being away from home, having all these experiences. And then finally near the end, I was like, shoot, once this is done, I have to be an adult. And then, so that finally hit me more in the last year of schooling. And that's where I went to go to a presentation for the College of Kinesiology, and kind of first learned about it actually only in my fourth year, which is something that I think should be happening way earlier, right? As people are going through school. And that's, again, something that I was like, oh, letting other kin students know that that's actually a thing. But yeah, I graduated in 2016, and I kind of just figured I had to start volunteering and, just get a job. I ended up staying in London. My girlfriend was here. She was still doing schooling. I met her actually in kin. And then, yeah, I just was volunteering and figured out I had to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And that's kind of my personality, that I'm like, okay, now I need to switch over and just go head first into this.
Yeah. So Devon, I won't ask you how long ago that you graduated from school, but
It's only been a few years. I'm really new to this profession.
Of course, yes. So what was your graduating experience like? Sort of moving from a university program into the real world, which would have been an entirely different place than it is today. So what was your experience like?
Well, yeah, being almost, Spencer, so being almost 10 years your senior and graduating from kinesiology, the experience was similar in the sense of, what do I do with this now? At that time, right, we had the title of certified kinesiologists, but we weren't a regulated profession. I was lucky enough in my fourth year to get an internship placement at a really well established and really sort of new at that point gym that didn't really consider themselves a gym. They did a ton of functional training. I really liked the way that they approached the clientele. And it wasn't this just come in and here's machines and whatnot. It really was a very functionally based program that was being provided. I had geared up until that 4th year of getting ready to go into teachers college. And I'd come to my internship prof and I had just said, listen, I have so much experience coaching. I have so much experience with children and teaching. If I'm going to do this, I want to make sure that I've experienced everything I could within kinesiology to be determined that that's the route I'm going to take. And I found myself at this gym, and I can remember my very first day, the co-owner of this facility, as well as going to be my future boss, and at first my sort of advisor for while I was doing my internship, said to me, you know, just sit back and watch. And I'm not good at doing that. I'm not good at sitting back and just watching. And so I watched for a little bit. You know, I had background in sports since I was probably 4 years old. And, you know, I competed provincially and nationally in gymnastics and in basketball. And having, I think, a good body.
Basketball, now there's a combo.
And you know what? I was a giant in gymnastics at 5'4", and I was a midget in basketball at 5'4". Go figure. But nonetheless, those are my two main sports. And so with gymnastics, I find it's already any sport it's going to be complementary to kinesiology and body awareness. And in watching people go through this workout, though I loved, and I'd never seen, you know, athletes were only training in a functional manner at this point. So I love the idea, but so many people had improper form. And I couldn't handle that. And I had to jump into the class and get it rolling. So I think after that experience, I had really started to plummet into this notion of being able to help people on a wider span than just teaching. It combined teaching and education with my passion for understanding human performance.
Mm-hmm. The profession is certainly well-grounded in human performance. It's well-grounded in rehabilitation as well. Certainly those are a lot of its roots as a profession. That being said, that the opportunities are changing a great deal. The roles are evolving. The role that exercise can play is certainly becoming more and more enhanced. I think you've been making more of those moves, Spencer. So why don't you tell us a little bit about sort of that evolution in your career path?
Yeah, so just like any kind of kinesiologist that you think would start out, you start off in more of that rehab clinic with physios, chiros, massage therapy, working with individuals get into that car accidents, workplace injury, sport injury. And that was definitely something that's where I think a lot of kinesiologists think kinesiology students think that that's what they're going to get into, whether that's moving on to another profession or continuing as a kinesiologist, probably working in some form of rehab. And that's definitely something that is undertaken as well by a lot of other professionals. So there's a lot of different types of people working within rehab. And so even for myself, that's kind of where I worked originally for the first 3 years of my career, 3-4 years. And you start to see a lot of the same things, or you're teaching a lot of the same things over and over again to people. And it comes down to some fundamental thing that if they would have known before, they could have almost prevented that injury from happening or being as bad as it is now. So that even that mindset helped me kind of move into the position that I'm working in now, which is working more in that prehab, preventative chronic disease management, looking at how can we, now that we have that knowledge, how can we translate it to kind of teach people to prevent themselves from being injured, from having to go to rehab, or from kind of lessening the blow if they were to be injured later on. So there's definitely a lot of research being done and looking at that kind of prehab approach and looking at strengthening and being educated before things happen. So that's definitely an interesting field that I think kinesiologists, and I'm sure we'll be chatting about it in the future of kinesiology as a profession.
Mm-hmm. Devon, you got an interest in prehab as well?
Definitely. So I've done a lot of just independent work or consulting. And when I'm consulting, a lot of the times it is to do assessments, functional assessments, workplace capacity assessments, functional evaluations, and ergonomic assessments and whatnot. And though I find kinesiology is well fitting for rehabilitation, where we add that extra bonus or a benefit to working with a kin is if we take you from that injured state, we can bring you back down to health, or as I always look at it, as forward to health, because we never want to go back. If we go back where we rehabilitate to where we used to be, that will end us back up where we are right now, right? If our mechanics are off then, they're going to end up being off again. So in helping an individual come back to health, a kinesiologist is also able to maintain that health for a longer period of time. Like Spencer's saying, then we are decreasing the potential for further injury or harm, because we're not just taking a look at the pain area of an individual, we're taking a look at their functioning whole unit. So again, like rehab to prehab, to me almost goes hand in hand. Because for me, honestly, prehab needs to begin really, really young. Mm-hmm. And if we teach it really, really young, then we're really prehabbing individuals for the long term. So
Spencer, where you alluded to it just a couple of minutes ago about where you think the future of the profession is going. Mm-hmm. Where do you see the future of the profession going?
So this is. I find this a little unfair because I have a good idea of what a lot of people think, because this is one of the main questions I actually talk to almost all, if not all, the guests on the podcast that I have. I get their idea of what they think the future is, and almost across the board, everyone is on the same page in terms of looking at more of that chronic disease management, prevention, and prehab approach, and that's definitely something that I totally agree with. That's really how kinesiologists can set themselves apart from other kind of rehab or healthcare providers. Because like I was saying before, a lot of people are dabbling in that rehab, whether that's physios, chiros, massage, and you even see personal trainers nowadays are kind of looking at some of that approach in terms of rehab, where I think kinesiologists can really thrive and prosper and make a name for ourselves within the public, is taking that one niche of more chronic disease prevention management and making it our own. And obviously not saying we don't do the other things. We don't do rehab, we don't do ergo, but our main service or why we're here is this. So then the message isn't spread thin when you talk to a kinesiologist about what they do. And I think that's one of the biggest barriers for kinesiologists, is that they can do so much that when you talk to one kin, it's going to be different about what they do. Mm-hmm. But if you were to talk to, easy to say, a physio, right, they help with rehab with an injury, and that's across the board the same. So our messaging has to be the same to the public, so then everyone understands that, and then obviously we can dabble into other things that also we work into. So I think that's really where the future is headed, and a lot of people are aware of it. And with the onset of this recent pandemic, I've seen a lot of people be a little bit more aware of their health, not take it for granted as much. So I think that will kind of kickstart people's mindset and framework in terms of how important is their health now. And I think it'll start with people being a little bit more careful with their health and reaching out earlier on before an injury or something were to occur where they need more of a rehab. So yeah, I think that's kind of where it's headed, as long as everything goes as planned, with all the kinesiologists kind of thinking that way as well.
I know that that's certainly an area that the OKA board puts a lot of emphasis on and a lot of effort into. In fact, in my duties with OKA, I'm actually currently the chair of the Ontario Chronic Disease Prevention Alliance. So we've certainly been active with the support of the board. Devon, maybe you want to talk a little bit about where you think and where the board thinks things are going as it relates to the profession.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, when we take a look back into kinesiology, when I speak to individuals who have carved the path even prior to myself, it starts to become semantics in terms of rehab and prehab. Spencer, I think you and I and the board align with this idea of chronic illness. I'm going to say chronic disease as well as chronic injury. That's where kinesiology can really magnify its impact, and where we can set ourselves apart. But in speaking with other individuals who you know graduated even before my time, it becomes semantics, because we work within a system right now where prehab is like a brand new term in a sense. Rehab is something that is easily recognized, and I think we're talking about concepts and conceptualizing on a large scale the difference between rehab and prehab. For a kinesiologist, I think almost anytime you ask any kin, we're going to understand that there's a difference, and we're going to understand that we can prevent something from being an issue with the knowledge and the education that we've had. But unfortunately, we work within a system where we wait until something's broke, and then you fix it. We don't yet adopt the concepts that we can maintain health, we can maintain homeostasis, we can be doing things now, though we have that research to back us up. You know, we know that exercise combined with a good diet is one of the top 2 ways to be preventing chronic illness, chronic disease, chronic injury. And you know, I think when it comes to OCA, we are really starting to push those concepts and really start to carve a path with other professionals and other associations, so they understand, you know, yes, we can do this. A strength and a weakness for us is our scope of practice is so broad. It is so broad. So we can fit in anywhere, but if you're really going to magnify our potential and use us to our fullest, prehab is the way that we need to be opening up to, in that path that we could really tap into.
That's all the time that we have for today. Kinversations is just a quick little pop and a teaser taste for everybody to have a look. I'd like to thank our guests, regular guest Devon Blackburn, who is the president of the Ontario Kinesiology Association, and Spencer Raposo, a strong, young, very aggressive kinesiologist who's out promoting the profession, and so certainly encourage every and all kinesiologist and OKA member to get as involved as Spencer gets. And we'd like to thank you all for joining us, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.